It's your boy Amreezy, and I'm back with another Road to Sorare Boss, a series where I go from Sorare Beginner to Sorare Boss. I will get there. I will become Sorare Boss, and then we've taken another huge step forward to becoming a Sorare Boss, because this week I can announce I won my first ever Sorare threshold. That's right, $5 straight into the Sorare bank. Yeah, I'll reveal later in the video how I won that Sorare threshold. Stay tuned for that. It's an interesting week for Sorare. The African Nations Cup is on, and Sorare kind of doing the African Nations Cup. So if you can stack players, I am not really going for that. I've got one card that would be eligible if he wasn't injured, Awaniwi at Nottingham Forest, but he's injured, and it's not really for me. You know, I've spent my initial budget that I wanted to spend, and now we're going to see if we can use that to become a Sorare Boss. So yeah, not taking the African Nations Cup seriously in Sorare terms anyway. So it's been a quiet midweek for me, because I think the only leagues that are open at the moment are the African Nations Cup. But the weekend, we've got the Belgian League coming back, which is great for me because I've got some Union SG cards. We've got the Premier League. Half the Premier League is back because half the Premier League are having a kind of staggered midweek winter break, where like some teams played last weekend and the others are playing this weekend coming. So there's a few Premier League leagues back. The Italian league's back. I think we're slowly getting there. The Mexican League resumed. As someone who lives in Mexico, that's exciting for me. The Mexican League resumed. And yeah, the leagues are coming back. MLS should be back next month. Japanese League should be back next month. I've got cards there as well. So a few more leagues are starting to come together. It's getting exciting. So let's take a look at how I did last week. A week that saw me win my first ever threshold prize. Let's say how I did last week. This is how I did last week, in the week that saw me win my first ever Sorare threshold prize. Delighted. We had a good week. I mean, we entered 2 leagues as we usually do. I go for the cap 240. That's my priority. I try to get the threshold of $5, which I got for the first time. And then I usually throw a team together. It's usually the Premier League Specialist or the cap 220, because both of those leagues don't need a goalkeeper, limited cards. So last week I went for the Premier League Specialist, and I did okay. I mean, if I had another option in defense, I would have picked them. I had to go for Badiashile because I didn't have another option. He didn't play, and he kind of ruined it. If he'd have just played and got an okay score, I might have won a reward here. I have noticed Sorare has a little option where they can show you how close you were away from a reward. I was 83 points away from getting a card. 83 points away from getting a tier 5 card. So if Badiashile had been a better defender and Sean Longstaff, I had a better midfield option to pick, I could have got a reward. So, you know, I'm getting close. And that's with the league that isn't my priority. So the Premier League Specialist, you know, my goalkeeper did well. Palini is a great card, 91 points. Sterling, you know, if Sterling plays, he seems to do okay for Chelsea. It's just that at the moment, I'm not sure he's going to play every week. And Longstaff didn't do great, and Badiashile didn't play. So 271 points with 3 proper cards. That's an okay score. It shows that I've got some potential there. I've got injured Premier League players, remember. So when those cards come back from injury, I've got enough there that I think I could challenge maybe a little bit. I could possibly have 2 leagues I'm properly challenging for. But at the moment, it's just the cap 240, which, as you can see here, back of the net. First ever threshold win, $5. It sounds better in dollars. It's a $5 reward. In pounds, it's like £3.90 something. So as you can see in my bank here, I've got money in the Sorare bank for the first time in a while, which is exciting. I'm trying not to spend it all at once. I'm trying to see if, you know, I can win a few more, maybe keep that rolling up before a player I really want to buy. I've had a quick look at the market. There's not a player that's jumping out at me that I need to buy right now, so I've not spent that yet. So I've got that little cheeky bit of money in the bank for the first time. And then if we look at how I did in the 240 league, my 4 outfield players all played at the weekend, and then the goalkeeper, Bilal, he played on Monday. So it was very nervous because the outfield players got like 250 something points, and I needed my goalkeeper to get me 5 points or something, which was nerve-wracking because he's not been great recently. The last 4 games before that, he's got like 20. His scores have been terrible. They've been doing really bad as a team, conceding goals. He's been getting around about the 20 mark. So it was nerve-wracking, hoping he'd get that. In the end, they were playing Galatasaray as well. Another reason to be nervous. Galatasaray, above them in the league, expected to win. They did win 2-1, but Bilal came through with Even though they lost, you can see here they lost, conceded 2 goals. He made plenty of saves, 6 saves, 12 points just for that alone. So that alone gave me a nice 55 score from him. Meant I hit the threshold. Delighted. I mean, if we look at the outfield players, Xavier in defense is a great pick. He's a great pick. He was injured for a while. I bought him because I saw that before he was injured, he captained the team a few times and was quite a good player. And even though Volendam are bottom of the league, they're bottom of the league, they lose all the time. They lost this week. And as you can see, General, conceded 1 goal. It's not great. But what he does is he wins tackles. He gets involved in the play. He's like a leader in that defense. And he makes passes. He's a good passing defender. So you can see here, passing points alone got 21 points. And defending points 5 because he made some key blocks and he made passes into the opposition area. So delighted with him. And his L15 is so low because, well, it's going to be going up now, but it was low for ages. He's put 2 back-to-back performances now of good scores for Cap 240. Not good scores if you're like playing all-star leagues, but for me, he's a nice little card. Rashika is another player who was injured. I bought him because I saw before he was injured, he was peaking now and again, and he scored again. He scored again. Did he score again? He might not have scored again, but he did well. Yeah, he scored again. He got a goal. That's 2 weeks in a row he scored. So delighted with him. Sandro Ramirez, another player who I've picked who was injured, came back from injuries. The main guy at Las Palmeiras up front, 72 points from him. Should have captained him. I ended up captaining technically my best card in my entire gallery. Best there in Germany. He gets assists for fun. He didn't have his best week. For him, 52 points is not a good score. If I hadn't have captained him and I'd have captained one of the other guys, let's see how close I was to a prize. This is a little Sorare feature I didn't realize existed where you can see how close you were to a prize. I guess I'm now in a position where I can start seeing how close I am to prizes, better rewards. You can see I was 33 points away from a tier 5 card. So if I'd have just captained someone else, I probably could have won a card. So the team's looking good. That's how we did last week. We won our first ever threshold prize. It's our 3rd ever prize. So, I feel like we're on a bit of a roll. I'm understanding the game, starting to pick up a few cards, starting to pick up a few prizes. Let's see what I'm thinking going forward into this weekend's fixtures where, once again, I'm going to be attacking the Cap 240 League. These are the teams that I'm thinking of entering this weekend coming, which will be Gameweek 443. So the Cap 240 will be my priority. That's my bread and butter. That's what I'm going to be going for with a team that's largely similar to last week's team. I can't fit Besta in because of the L15 scores, but let's take a look at that team. Let's start off with our priority, which is the Cap 240. Bilal, my only goalkeeper, my only limited goalkeeper, he will be in goal. Xavier will get another game in defense. As you can see from Bilal's scores, by the way, as I was mentioning earlier, he hadn't been on a good run, which is why I was nervous ahead of my last Cap 240 game. But as you can see, he got 15, 13, 23, 27, and then 55. So he came when I needed him. Hopefully, he can get back to now some of these better scores, some of these peaks that he's had in the past. Hopefully, Bilal can get back to those scores. Xavier in defense, his L15 is still low because he was injured for a while and then he came back from injury with a few low scores. So he's still got a nice low L15, which is good for my Cap 240 league. I'll be playing him again. They have a better fixture. So they had a hard fixture last week, harder fixture last week, and he got a good score. So I'm hoping he does the same. Even if they lose, they're bottom of the league. Even if they lose, I'm hoping he's involved in the play, makes tackles, and can get some points. Rashika, I'm going to captain this week because they're playing the team second bottom of the league. So I'm going to captain him because he scored 2 in 2. He's on a roll. L15 still okay. If we look at his scores, his past scores, he was injured for ages, came back from injury with some low scores where he wasn't playing 90 minutes. Now he's back in the team, an 80 and a 65. I need him to continue that good form. And as my captain this week, I definitely need that. Who knows? Maybe Rashika can come through and deliver. The other options in midfield are Beste, who, I'd like to fit him in my team. I just can't fit him in. His L15 is 58. He's a little bit too good for this league, so he's not going to fit in. Lapoussin was a good option for me but when I first signed him. Uni and SG, they've had a break. I'm hoping he comes back from the break with a bit of form because, as you can see from his past scores, he hasn't been playing well. He's had a few bad scores. Average score of 35 of the last 5 games is not great. You know, his L15, in the past, he was getting some peaks. Before the winter break, he wasn't doing great. So I'm really hoping he comes through because, you know, I spent a little bit of money on him. He wasn't a crazy amount of money, but in comparison to my team and my budget, he needs to be performing better. Otherwise, I need to sell him. The other midfield options, Mangala, the new Nottingham Forest manager's in, and it's not looking good for Mangala. He was doing good, a few peaks here and there, but since the new manager came in, he's not been in the team. He doesn't seem to be getting picked, so I can't really trust him for any of my leagues. So he's not going to be there. Up front, Sandro's getting another game. The other options, it's not showing here because I've put him in my other league, but the other option is Silla at Valladolid. But I'm going to go with Sandro because, a little bit like some of my other players in this team, his last 2 performances have been good, and I'm hoping he's another player picking up form now, picking up some, you know, momentum. He's had 2 good performances. And then my 5th pick is going to be Big Alessio from Union SG. I'm not sure. This is the one position in my team I'm not sure this week who to go for. I've got 54 points to pick. He comes in at a nice 53, so it kind of makes me feel like I'm getting the most from my remaining points. And the only thing is, I don't like picking defenders as the kind of 5th player, just because I feel like the ceiling's higher with attackers. But the attacking options I have aren't as good. I've got, you know, defensive options. I've got a few defenders here. I've got Lapoussin, who I mentioned earlier. You know, maybe he hits, but just because of his form before the winter break, I don't know if I can go for Lapoussin. Whereas Castro Montes was playing well before the break, has got me some kind of good scores. You know, an 84, an 80, 56. For the Cap 240, those are kind of good scores. So I think I'm going to go with him. And I think that's going to be my Cap 240 league for this week. Let me know in the comments if you think I'm missing a trick here. Should I go for Lapoussin? That's the kind of player who I'm debating for instead of Castro Montes. But my decision making has been fairly good recently. So I'm going with a team that's largely the same as what won me my threshold last week. Just with one change, it'll be Castro Montes in for best there because I can't afford best there. So that's the 240. And then I'm like, who have I got left over for either the Premier League Specialist or the Cap 220? Because of the cards I've got, I don't have enough players for the Premier League Specialist, so it's going to be the Cap 220. Now, the Cap 220 at the moment is in it's a league where it's an 8-week league at the moment with the Cap 220. It's one of those again where you pick the 4 best scores and they take the average of those scores to see if you win a prize at the end of the 8 weeks. So this is my first time entering the Cap 220 league. I'll be going with Baumann in goal, who's one of my limited goalkeepers. I'm going with him mainly because he's the cheapest, and this guy I didn't really feel good about his fixture. Kepa's not in the team anymore. I should probably change my Spanish goalkeepers. But Baumann, you know, he's okay. We'll see how he does. Azpilicueta, you know, this is very punty, this league. Very punty. If he gets a game for Atletico, he might do well. I don't really have a lot of defensive options. I've got Ravic, who I think is still injured. Pablo Mari, who's a bit hit and miss and a bit expensive for this league. Toffolo, again, new manager at Forest. I don't think he played last week, so I'm not fully sure if he gets a game this week. And then Robertson's injured. So I'll put Azpilicueta as a punt. Norgard, another punt, because Brentford's form's a little bit off. But, you know, sometimes Norgard delivers. Silla will be my captain because out of this team, he's the guy that I feel most confident about. He's the main guy at Valladolid. He's not been doing great recently because Valladolid, their form has been a bit shaky. But again, this team's very punty. We're going to hope it comes through. And then Muleka, another punt as my 5th player. He's out of the first team. He was in the first team for a while. Happy days. He seems to be on the bench now. So I'm kind of hoping... But I think Abubakar is the player who's replaced him at Besiktas. He's not been doing that great as well. And they've got Tosun as well. So I think Besiktas have a kind of bit of a striker crisis at the moment where none of the strikers are kind of hitting form. So I'm just hoping that Muleka, if he does start on the bench, he comes off the bench and scores and then gets back in the team. So not feeling confident about the 220 league. All my focus will be on the 240 league and hopefully winning another threshold prize. That's how we're looking at the moment. I'm on a bit of a high after winning my first threshold prize. Let's hope I can win another one. If you've got any advice for me, if you've got any tips on who I should buy now that I've got a little bit of money in the bank, I'm looking for cheap players for the Cap 240 League. If you've got any suggestions, let me know. Follow me on the socials where, especially on X, the artist formerly known as Twitter. I am very active there. I do take a lot of advice there. A couple of great accounts on there who are giving me good advice. You can join that conversation. I'd really appreciate it. But for now, that's how I'm looking on my road to journey, on my road to Sorare Boss journey. Have a good game week 443. Peace.